All right, here comes another video of that crazy trailer that I was telling you about. Oh man, I spent so much time on this. Tons of research. So every single generator is going to have a different controller. Some of the newer AC or the GL 11000s have this round controller that's on the front of the control. Oh, actually, I'll just show you my trailer because it has it. Let me walk over here. The newer trailers have these controllers in there. If you look right here from the side, you can see that round guy down there. Do you see him? That is a controller, and he only powers up when the inverter's calling for power. And this is the newer design. And then just to note, the reason why they have that cover plate here is they don't want people hooking on extension cords and pulling power from the generator, because the cabinet knows how much the generator's rated for, and it's going to pull, say, 7,200 watts. And if you're also pulling 7,200 watts on another load, that's going to cause your generator to lose power and buckle under the load. All right, so we're going to talk about this controller for a minute. When this trailer came to me, this controller had been completely rewired and pulled apart because there were several people before me that were trying to fix it, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Well, that's when we discovered that the master on the other side of that wall had a bad circuit, so it was never actually activating this, and so that was 90% of the problem. If you look right here, you'll see this little flashing light. It does that flash every 5 seconds or so. And that's just telling you that it's operating and functioning normally, and it's waiting for the line to actually activate. We're going to talk about all these pins. This orange wire right here, this orange wire is that orange wire right there that goes into the cabinet. If I were to pop these two off here and just take my screwdriver and touch pins number 5 and, let's see if I can focus in, 5 and 6, if I were to short those two lines out right there, that basically tells the generator to start, or it gets ready to go through the start sequence. So if you have one of these controllers and you're trying to troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on, just know that this goes to the front cabinet. Okay. Now I've seen these controllers wired so many different ways. I've seen it where the power to this controller, these wires interrupt the power that comes in from the battery. This right here is the battery. And I've seen it where they ran the power through this wire, through the inverter, back to the controller, so that when the relay in the master connects, then it powers this up. Now, there's one advantage to that, and that is that this controller won't be a constant drain on your battery. Because right now, that little blinky light right there, that light, it means this guy, he's taking power. He's draining your battery from your generator. And you'll notice right here, there's a couple modes. There's a 12-hour start right there. And that's kind of interesting, but you have to disable this 12-hour disable. So you have to short those to disable it. And what that does is it says every 12 hours, just run the generator for a little bit. Now I'm testing it right now to see if that is, that's also an option that you can turn off in here as well. And then you have got the fault line, then there's ground lines. And then if you look up underneath here, you can see, like, it tells you what each of these are for. Let me see if I can focus in on it a little bit better. There we go. And you got your battery power. Now, the one thing you have to be careful about doing what I just told you about, running the power to this unit through the inverter, is that the cranking system down here, this can pull all these down here, the relays for running the glow plugs and the crank to the starter and the fuel pump. You can pull a lot of amps, and the inverter is not good to allow a lot of amps to go through. And that's possible that's what happened, is somebody before me was trying to hook this thing up, and they were running the power through the inverter, and that essentially fried the circuit board when the starter tried to crank up, because that pulls a ton of amps. Now, in addition, these two plugs over here on the far end, if you look up underneath, you'll see that that says that it is the AC and it's the Hertz sensor, okay? Another reason why I wanted to adjust the frequency on this generator, that's in an earlier video where I adjusted the frequency, is that if this gets up over, I think it's 64 Hertz or 65 Hertz, I'd have to check, but this will then throw an error. And if you look right here, there is some error codes right there. I'll try to pause it there. But one is a where it talks about a you've got a over under on the generator hertz, and then you also have an emergency shutdown, and then you have a max crank shutdown. Like these are little error states right there. Those lights right there. And then they'll be blinking. Well, one of these generators I took apart, it was blinking the error that it was over hertz. And when I tested it, yep, it was like 64, 65 Hertz. And so I still need to go back to that generator and decrease the Hertz. So that was causing this controller not to work as well, because it was triggering it to go into a fault mode. And even though the inverter was saying, hey, let's start it, and I've restarted the inverter and I cleared the inverter, this guy was still in a bad state. And in order to clear him, I think I had to unplug. I actually pulled his power, like right here. If I pull his power, you'll see that the light's no longer going to blink, and that is pin number 3. I think I had to pull that for like 20 minutes or something, and then it finally cleared. Now the boot sequence, you'll see it goes solid for a little bit as it's booting up, and then it'll start doing the blink again. There you go. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the speed. So if for some reason your generator's not starting, you might want to look here at these and see if you've got an error state. And these other lights will be blinking slow or fast if it's over or under. Now, this down here, let's see if I can show this. A little vertical. Here's the power coming in. And then they just jumpered it to each of these at the bottom, and then they jumpered it again and came over here. So basically they're running the same power to all 3 of these. That's the glow plugs. You can see the writing right there. Glow plugs, crank, and then this igniting one. I'm a little sad about this because the only way that I can hook this up right now is that this last one goes to the fuel pump. So the fuel pump doesn't actually turn on until the cranking is cranking, and that's one thing I don't like about this controller. There might be another way to wire the fuel pump so that the fuel pump is more reactive, but right now the ignition relay doesn't kick on until it actually thinks it's running. And so you got this chicken and the egg thing, that if the fuel pump isn't pumping fuel, you're kind of reliant on what's in the fuel line to be able to get it going. So, and I think that's why some of the starts were like, it starts and then it kind of backs off and then it gets going again, because it's kind of fighting with the fuel as the fuel's coming in. The other line I want to talk about, this one right here. This is the reset button right here. It goes up on the outside of the generator right there. You can see them there. So I had to disconnect these because they were connected, as they should be, right here to the reset button, okay? And I believe that's pins 7 and 8, okay? Right there's 7 and 8. The problem with this reset button is that it is touching, or it's shorting when it's in the resting position. And they have a term where it's, they call it normally closed or normally open. So this would be an NC, normally closed, and then an NO would be normally open. It'd be closed, anyway. But I'm hoping, I haven't done it yet. I'm going to open this guy up. See that little switch right there? I'm hoping that I might be able to rewire that relay so that it is opposite, so that it is normally open until you push the button, and then that would cause this to reset. Right now I can't use him because as soon as it says start, this guy was saying, hey, and cancel the startup sequence because someone is clicking the reset button. So it was like this continual reset state. Took me a little while to figure that one out too. So these controllers, if somebody's been in here monkeying with them, it can get messy. So I want to, they're not fun to diagnose. They're kind of a pain. And then down here, different colors. This yellow goes to the glow plugs. The blue goes to the crank. And then the white here goes to the fuel pump. Now, you cannot guarantee these colors, okay? Because this gets connected on the other side. I'm going to make a totally different video talking about the other side of the generator because it's kind of more generic over there. And I'm just going to talk about the little, what do they call that? It's a wire block that's behind the control panel. So anyway, there you go. I'm going to make a separate video that talks about this because if I can reverse that to be normally open, and only shorted when you push it, then I can reconnect these to the reset, which would be nice. I don't like having unused wires in here. And then the only other wire in here that's not getting used right now is this guy. I don't think I've ever seen him getting connected, but he's meant to be like an error state. Because if you look up here on the top, you can see that you've got like a oil pressure, you got a high temp, and then there's like an exercise with a load, that says whether you want to connect or something. It's kind of just another way to trigger a manual start. But anyway, this I was going to have connected because there is some error states on the wire block over here, but it seemed like it wasn't behaving properly. Sometimes if you're low oil pressure, the Kubota is smart enough to shut down. And it would be nice to have the controller know that you're shutting down because of low oil pressure. But it doesn't really matter because the generator will just shut down. And then the inverter says, hey, I can't get power. And then the inverter will go into its error state. And, it's not like you're going to damage anything because your generator's smart enough to shut down, which is good. Anyway, there's the controller. And then in the older models, some of these controllers are actually inside of a box. Actually, I might have one. Let me go see if I can show it to you. All right, it's not exactly the right box, but here's some of the white boxes that might be mounted on the inside of the back of that generator. These actually came off for tracking purposes and the car chargers because they're not being used, and so I pulled them off. But it looks like a box like this, and inside that box they have a controller that will allow you to. It's like an older style controller that basically does what these newer controllers do, but it's just an older version of it. But I do want to mention that there's a big capacitor on those older systems. It's bigger than this one. This just for people that want to know what a capacitor is. This right here is a capacitor. And basically the capacitor is like a little mini battery. I had one of the older controllers come in where it was not able to crank the starter anymore. As soon as the starter would say, turn the starter on, it would just go, and then it wouldn't actually do anything. We thought it was the starter of the generator, but it wasn't. It was just the capacitor. And so I had to basically unsolder the old capacitor, order a replacement, and put that on, and that fixed the other controller, so it works. So pay attention to these capacitors. They're good for about 10 years, and these trailers are coming up on that. So if you've got some weird behaviors happening, it might be that you just need to replace a capacitor on one of your controllers. And they're only like, $5 to $10. It's definitely worth the investment if it's going to fix your problem. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this video. If anyone has any questions, always reach out to me. I don't really check comments on YouTube so much. I do, but it's not very timely. It'd be best to try to reach me through Facebook. Don't just try to friend me in Facebook because If I don't know who you are, then I think it's the stupid spammers. But what you could do through there's a couple really good Facebook groups out there for these trailers, and you can just direct message me, and that I can get back to you usually within a few days on that one. So anyway, I hope everyone is finding these videos helpful. Oh yeah, I got a couple more videos I got to make. All right, everyone. Ciao.